Joining us on the program, a member of the APC Edo State Campaign Council, former Majority Chief Whip of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Dr. Samson Osagie. Many thanks for joining us on the program. It's a delight to see you.
Why? Thank you for having me. And just to correct the fact that I was former Minority Whip of the House of Representatives, not Majority.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We truly appreciate that. All right, let's get into it, the conversation around the election. Your party has been campaigning in the last couple of days, concluded the campaigns last Saturday, but there are concerns that some of the statements coming forth from those campaigns are laced with propaganda, half-truths, lies, and what have you. What's your take on this, and how do you think this resonates with Edo people in making their decision come Saturday?
For having me this morning, and let me start on the note that this Saturday election ought to be a very sober, emotional exercise that will afford the people of Edo State to reflect on their journey so far in the art of governance and delivering democracy dividends by the government of Edo State in the last 8 years. When you talk about propaganda, lies, and half-truths coming out from the campaigns, I wonder what you are actually referring to. Is it untruth or is it false that Edo State has witnessed huge capital flight in the last 8 years, when Edo people are not in a position to participate in service delivery in Edo State? Is that an untrue statement? Is it an untrue statement that when it rains in Benin now, you can hardly pass? Is that not correct? Is it also not correct that our schools' infrastructures have dilapidated, particularly since Governor Adams Oshomole left office, with the Red Roof Revolution practically stopped by this government? Is it also not correct that a number of people hired for casual services, both in regular civil service and on ad hoc basis, are being owed 7 months' salaries? I mean, I don't know what they mean by untruth and lies and so forth, but the point must be raised that this election is going to be a referendum on the performance of Governor Obaseki administration in the last 8 years. And I dare say that short of elite conspiracy, the generality of the people of Edo State understand and accept the fact that the abysmal failure of the Governor Obaseki administration will be the yardstick or the report card that they are going to write for Obaseki and his party in next Saturday election. And that is why APC has matured confidently. You can see our campaign had gone on without any hitch, or where there are hitches that are beyond human control. We also try as much as possible to get over them. Generally, APC has shown itself to be properly placed and positioned to win the next Saturday election. And I just believe that nothing, absolutely nothing, can make that otherwise.
There are perspectives that in this election, APC has shot itself in the foot and has placed itself in a disadvantaged position by reason of the quality of the candidate that it is featured. More with the fact that he's not been able to have any direct media engagement, but relying on surrogates like you and several others to speak for him. What do you make of this line of reasoning?
Sorry, I take exception to the fact that you refer to us as surrogates. And you recall that you invited me for this program. I didn't want to even appear. In any election, there is no place where the candidate must be the one that will feature in television conversations and all. Our candidate has been speaking to Edo people through by mounting the focus across the state, and not coming into any particular media house to answer questions put to him by media practitioners. It's not a requirement sine qua non to contesting an election. So that cannot be shooting itself in the foot. In any case, in elections, there are many means of communication with the public. Our candidates may not be a motivational speaker as we have among the other two candidates. But the truth of the matter is that far beyond that, Senator Monday Okpebholo has compassion, passion for the job that he's seeking to do for Edo people. And that has been demonstrated by the enormity of the task he has had to shoulder on behalf of the people of Edo Central and across the state. He has demonstrated that he has a passion for service. He has demonstrated that he has a passion for alleviating the suffering of the people within his area. Even before he became senator, he has continued to render community services to the people of his locality and the people of the Central District. He has continued to demonstrate that you can serve the people even without being in government. Being in government is going to just enable him to extend that compassionate quality of his, which is lacking in other candidates in this election. And I think nobody should gloss over that on the altar of getting a more fluent and a motivational speaker. So our candidate is best suited for this job because he has a track record of community service, a track record of being compassionate and passionate in the pursuit of delivering of services to the people of Edo State.
What's your take on the concerns that there is really no evidence of cognate work experience that he will bring to bear in the governance of Edo State, because there's seemingly no visible records of where he has worked, what he has done, apart from some of the things that you are saying, which also he has also said. And then tie that to the fact that, because he alluded to this, I've heard him say this personally, that he doesn't need a manifesto to govern Edo State. So there is no document that binds him and Edo people in terms of the deliverables. So a party and a candidate that doesn't have a working document like a manifesto, isn't that something that should give Edo people concerned and influence their decision in this election?
Let me disabuse your mind about the fact that no manifesto exists for the APC candidates. As I speak with you, we have a manifesto. The manifesto is not going to execute itself. Senator Monday Okpebholo had a manifesto in which he tagged the 5-point agenda for Edo people, and it borders on security, education, agriculture, and so forth. So he has a manifesto. Manifesto cannot speak for itself. He does have a manifesto, and the party has a manifesto. Two, let me also disabuse your mind that he has no cognate experience of wherever he had worked. He rose from the ranks by engaging in business, and he has run businesses in the past very successfully. And I personally know this. It's not a matter of politics. I personally know that up until he became senator, he was the chief executive and managing director of 2 thriving ICT companies. I know that he has been using to do business, and very successfully so. Interweb Nigeria Limited is one of those companies. So if he had chosen to go into business and ICT all through his lifetime before he ran for elections, does that mean that he has no cognate experience? As a matter of fact, that should demonstrate and convince you that he has the capacity to manage people and resources, because he has been able to manage his business successfully. He has his business corporate headquarters in Zone 4 in Abuja, which he personally uses business proceeds from his business to carry out, and of course branches across the country and even outside the country. And he has won awards for the services he has been delivering, on the ICT platform. So it is not true that he does not have a clear-cut work experience. He does have a very huge work experience behind him as a businessman. And then he became elected as a senator. I don't understand what you mean. If somebody can be elected as a senator and he has demonstrated capacity as senator by influencing the federal government, to rehabilitate the major artery leading to the north from the south, what other act of competence and capability do you want to see? So he is quite prepared for this job. And when if he ever said that he doesn't need a manifesto, I think the point to be made is not to take it literally on the face value, because governance is not about being academic. And that is what he has said, that his approach to governance will be practical. not merely academic by writing on paper what you will do. At the end of the day, we cannot do it. We saw in this government a litany of MOUs on paper, academic postulations that were prepared and executed in faraway China and across the world, including Gelegele Seaport, the Nigeria Industrial Hub, and all over the states. How many of them that have been executed on paper are on ground today? And I think that is the point that Senator Okpeyolo was making, that it doesn't require, putting everything on paper to be able to, for him to be able to know that those state people requires good roads that will lead to everywhere they want to go, including to boost agriculture in rural areas, that those state people require good educational system, that those state people require good health system, and of course, that you do not need to replace a hospital with a museum. That is misplacement of priorities. And I think that is the point he was making. He tends to be very practical in the approach of governance and not merely academic. And sounding academic by talking about manifesto, as if manifesto will implement themselves, is the hallmark of the government that is outgoing and their proposed candidates. And that is a departure we want to make, from the status quo.
Okay, I've heard people say that your principal, your candidate in this instance, is following the president and the footsteps set by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who tacitly avoided debates, media engagement in the build-up to the 2023 elections. And in that light, we have seen that happen in EDO election, even though you have dismissed that is not a factor that will determine who can really govern. But here we are today in terms of the economic realities in the country right now under the APC government. And you are a part of that because you are a member of the APC. In your opinion, don't you think that this will have a telling effect on this election? The economic realities, people are hungry, they can't afford food, they can't go to work, they can't carry out the things that they need to do by virtue of the policies enunciated by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
So don't want you to forget that Nigeria is a federation with 36 states as a federating unit. And our resources are devolved on the various tiers of government, particularly the states and the local governments. The question Edo people are asking, it's not that they should be asking, is that what happens to the huge allocations that states have been receiving, particularly Edo State? If you go into the records, you will know that on the average, Edo State has been, taking home over 16 billion naira, excluding the internal revenues. Now, how has that impacted on the lives of the people of Edo? How has that impacted on them? It is not enough to continue to cry and shout about the federal government. The essence of having a federation or a federal government is that the component part of the state must use the resources they get to develop their states. The question you ask is that how has Edo State in particular used the resources which come from the federal government that is being led by Tinubu to impact on Edo people? Or is it true that the Tinubu administration has not been releasing allocations to Edo State on all fronts? If the answer is yes, that these allocations have been coming to Edo people, the question Edo people should be asking is that what has their governor done with their money? Yes, there are general policies on economic, monetary, and fiscal areas of government, which the federation ought to handle. But these decisions are not done even without the input of the Council of States, and the governors are part of it. Is the governor of Edo State not part of the federal government by being a member of the Council of States? So if there are challenges in the economy, it is not for the APC federal-led government alone to take. It is also for the PDP governors who are part of the Nigeria Council of State to take. Because the challenges we have had in Nigeria are such that we can no longer paper over the cracks. And these challenges were not solved at the time they were supposed to be sorted out. And now we need to take some hard decisions. But the duty of the federating units, including local government and states, is to ensure that these policies are complemented by states and local government in order to alleviate the suffering of people. And I ask the question, which Edo people will answer on Saturday? How has the state government in Edo State and the local government, 18 of them, tried to ameliorate the suffering of people through provision of social services and even basic infrastructure? The answer is that they have failed woefully. So the challenge is not for the federal government to do. It is also for Obaseki. When you criticize that the government, that there's hardship, it is also a referendum on the performance of this government.
Okay.
And nobody can run away for it. And I think that is where the chief economic advisor of the Governor Obaseki administration cannot also exculpate himself, because he has been the chief economic advisor of this government in the last 8 years.
There are those who will say that you're being political in your comments. In terms of the inflows into the state is around 11 billion naira from fact checking. We need to establish that. But in addition to that, here is the catch, that these resources are reflected in the new remodeling of the Secretariat complex on Sapele Road. They are reflected in the reconstruction of the burnt Ministry of Education at Yaro. They are reflected in several roads that are completed in the state. But as a matter of fact, the roads that are unpassable are the federal roads. Benin, Ekboma, Auchi, Abuja, unpassable. Benin, Asaba Road, unpassable. Benin, Sapele Road, unpassable. These are clearly federal government projects. I don't know what's your reaction to that.
Speak as if the spokesperson of the Edo State government, and that is regrettable. You are supposed to be a journalist.
And I'm asking you a question. I'm asking because these issues are on the street. Yes.
No. You are not speaking on the other side of what I'm saying on this interview. You are speaking and defending the government of
Edo. No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm just saying the obvious. No, I'm just saying the obvious.
8 years. And I have just said it. 8 years of running our state and our economy. And you are here telling me that the completion of uncompleted buildings and renovation of buildings are the achievements of this government. I'm so ashamed. How many roads were constructed that are still passable by this administration? Most of the roads that the governor constructed in his first tenure that anyone can see, they are no more today. We must face the reality. There are no good roads in Benin City. We are not even talking of other local governments. No good roads. The few roads that the governor did have they are getting washed away. Now you talk about the federal roads. Yes, federal roads are dilapidated across the country. But you have also forgotten that Governor Adams Oshomole constructed federal roads for Edo people. And when he left office, Governor Obaseki received the refund for those construction from the federal government. So it is laziness, it is intellectual laziness to argue that because they are federal roads, states cannot take part in the rehabilitation. Even the ones that are state roads cannot be constructed. Those ones that are constructed and being washed off just before the government is leaving office. So I do not subscribe to the argument that what this government has achieved is building Ministry of Education, achieving renovating houses that Dr. S. Ogbemudia of blessed memory constructed. That cannot be a valid achievement for 8 years for all the multi-billions of naira, both local and foreign, that this government has sourced in the last 8 years. Do you know what our debt profile is as of today? And this governor was involved in the government before it and in this government. So there can be no excuse for failing. The truth of the matter is that this government has performed below average, and this candidate, who was the chief economic advisor of this government, cannot exculpate himself from the failures of this administration. He must take the burden if he must also collect the benefits.
Okay, let's quickly look at the feelings in some quarters about your party's agenda in terms of governance, improving what has been done in the state, or changing the narrative completely. I mean, giving us a paradigm shift. What is the main thrust of your principal, the Senator Modu Okpebolo's agenda for Edo people by way of the policy thrust?
Like I told you, he has a 5-point agenda on security, on agriculture, on education, healthcare services, and of course, housing. Now, the truth of the matter is that the current state of Edo requires some measure of emergency. Emergency in the education sector, for instance, where our schools does not even have teachers. And then you wonder what has happened to the education sector, and yet we said Edo has won laurels in education development. So there needs to be improvement in the manpower sector, in the manpower requirement for education in Edo State. Our healthcare system have gone decrepit. We used to have central hospital, and I think that is a priority for the administration to ensure that each local government and each ward have functional healthcare systems where there are none already. And I dare say that in most of these areas, there are no functional health center. What you have are buildings probably without staff on even the basic things. So there will be improvement in the healthcare sector. More importantly, the Edo Specialist Hospital that was privatized beyond the reach of the common Edo people will need to revert back to the people of Edo State so that they can afford it. The reason for citing the central hospital, which this government has, in misplacing priority, converted to a museum and part of it to a motor park, is the worst policy decision any government can ever take, and that will have to be reverted. Because the central hospital established in 1904 was cited at the ring road in order to ensure that all can have access to the place. And now you demolish it and converted it to a museum. That is misplacement of priority. And I think the original plan will have to be restored. Whatever they like to compute there at the moment. In the area of agriculture, if you go to the rural areas today, there are farmers that have received grants from the federal government to improve their crops, and they are very happy about that. And the Monday Okpewolo administration will lead in that direction to ensure that there is more food security by supporting directly our farmers. We cannot have a situation where the government will borrow 500 million naira from the central bank to carry out rice farm in Sobe. All you get when you get to Sobe is an abandoned deforested site that did not produce one grain of rice. These are some of the areas that require urgent attention, including building infrastructures. There are no roads. It is not just building roads. On the Pueblo will build sustainable road network in Edo State, including constructing flyovers where they are necessary across the 3 senatorial districts. So you wonder what this government has done in terms of infrastructure. And that will also have as a concomitant support the finishing of the erosion project in Benin City and its environs, including Auchi and up to some parts in Eastern land. If that project was completed, the Benin City water storm was completed, Edo will not be as deflooded as it is today. That project will need to resume. It has to be completed so that Edo people can heave a sigh of relief from flooding as we currently witness. These are some of the areas. And I told you that these are not just matters of writing them down in manifesto. You are going to see the practical manifestation when Governor, as he shall soon become, Governor Monday Okpewolo, as he shall soon become, mounts the saddle of leadership in Edo State.
Honorable Samson Osagie, talk to us about your final message to Edo people on the Saturday's election, and then the concerns that your party is trying to foist a stooge on Edo people, where there will be governance by proxy. I don't know if you heard this. What are your thoughts along those lines on the final note in 1 minute?
I don't know what you mean by a stooge. If you describe our candidate as a person cannot be less of a stooge, because it was that party that has led to the exit of the traditional owners of the PDP. Now, I want to tell you that Monday Okpewolo is an independent young man himself and Dennis Udahosa. They are 2 young men, 54 and 44 years old, with energy to be able to do the work. If you were to make your son, Sonny Duke, if you were to make your son the governor of Edo State today, I can tell you that you won't be able to control him. So the idea of imposing a stooge does not even arise in this instance for the APC. And the demonstration that you would know about this is you will see practical governance taking place by these two young men who will take on the challenges of governance to provide infrastructures and social services to Edo people. And I think they are ready to trust them because they have the energy. They have no economic interest of their own to pursue. Yeah, we have candidates of the other party with huge economic interest that they are here to pursue, which they have been pursuing, and they want to conclude in the next 8 years through their various investments in various sectors of the economy within and outside Nigeria. These two young men have no such huge economic interest other than to serve Edo people. And that is my message, that Edo people should trust Dennis Idahosa and his boss, Monday Okpewolo, to govern Edo State from Saturday. And they should do so by conducting themselves very peacefully on Saturday and casting their vote for the APC. And I believe that the new Edo will be rising from November 12th, 2024. And that will be my 57th birthday gift. Thank you.
Fantastic. So let's wish you happy birthday in advance. In November, we'll give you the balance. Many thanks, Dr. Samson Osagie, for joining this conversation on Edo Decide. Thank you so much.